Hi, I'm Dr. Dan. We're talking a little bit about gluten today. Now, one thing we know is that gluten can interrupt the intestinal barrier. It can cause a leaky gut syndrome. That's been well worked out by some very good science. And one of those components is something called zonulin, and you can do a little bit of research on that. And there's been some articles written in the popular press about zonulin, but also if you want to get on PubMed, you'll find some articles as well. But I bring this up because I was talking with a lady today who is having just general food sensitivities and inflammation problems everywhere, and so she finds that this product called NEI barrier repair and also something called barrier reset from neuroscience has been real helpful for her. And I said, well, you're gluten free, right? And she goes, no, that didn't really work out for me. So I had to ask. I go, well, what happened? And she said, well, she went gluten free, but she said she lost a lot of weight. She just felt terrible. And I began to think about that, and now there's nothing in our physiology that says we require gluten in order to be healthy. So there's obviously some other factor here. But she thought, well, obviously her body needs this gluten. And I go, well, it doesn't. So if she's having a reaction, we need to do a little digging. So I kept asking questions, and then she said, well, when I first started, I did gluten-free, meat, potatoes, vegetables, that kind of thing. And she did pretty well, but then she took a trip to Whole Foods and bought a bunch of things in the gluten-free section, and then she just didn't do well after that. And so I explained to her, which I'm going to explain now, that just because that package says gluten-free doesn't mean it isn't, that it is. So let me explain why. As we go down the taxonomy chart in the plant kingdom, we come to the monocots and the dicots, and that's a type of seed. Now, one group is completely safe, and that would be things like buckwheat and rhubarb and that kind of plant. On the other side, it comes down to a whole group of plants. I forget which one's which, but anyway, the important thing is you've got the wheat, rye, and barley on one leg. Other leg, you're going to have corn, oats, and rice on this other leg. So the point is that these are all closely related grains, and they're all gluten-containing. Now, wheat, rye, and barley have about 5 segments on this gliadin molecule that can elicit an immune response from the person. Now, the oats, corn, and rice have just 1 segment on that gliadin molecule. Now, I should mention that rice is a very low gliadin content, and gliadin, of course, is the active component here. But rice is probably, of all of these, the lowest percentage of gliadin, so it's the least likely to cause problems, but that doesn't mean it won't. So especially when you concentrate it into a flour, you're going to get a lot of this, and so it could cause a reaction. But backing up just a little bit. So the important thing is to remember that as we come down this family tree, wheat, rye, and barley, triticale, which is a hybrid, these are all on one leg, and these are absolutely potent gluten grains. And we know that. That's easy to remember, and the gluten-free products in your grocery store won't have any of these products in it. But oats and corn and rice still contain gluten, and about half the people who are gluten sensitive react quite strongly to these as well. And how do you know which half you are? You just have to experiment. But don't assume just because some magazine article says that you can have these that you can and that it's safe. So, we were out for a birthday party, and it was at a Mexican restaurant, and it was partly chosen because the person whose birthday, the 50th birthday, is also gluten sensitive, and so they found that they can generally eat there without problems. But of course, I had some of the rice that comes with the meal, and I had some problems. It wasn't too terrible, but my wife, of course, had a lot of the corn chips and corn tortillas, and so she was up all night, with indigestion and not feeling well. And so corn does contain gluten, and some people react to it. So just keep that in mind. And I don't care what any article says. if you dig around into the research, you'll find that what I'm telling you is true. And there's some really good studies, especially with nitric oxide formation in the intestines, that verifies this. So anyway, interesting topic. I just don't want you to be tripped up. If you want to be gluten-free, I want you to have success at it. And part of that success might be going off the oats and corn, and maybe limit the rice too. It just depends. So thanks a lot for listening, and I hopefully that was helpful for you.